what if you could tell a property was going to be for sale even before the owner knew?
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, excited to have Stasiu Geleszinski back on. Stasiu, dude, it's been a long time. You were on the show. I should have looked up the episode, but boy, it's been probably like 3 years, maybe longer.
That sounds right. We were in a different office then. So yeah. It was quite a while ago.
It's been a while. So welcome back to the show. And we're actually going to be really talking about something different. So Stash, for those of you who, and we'll put in the show notes his previous episode, so you kind of hear a lot more about, his background and what he does in the brokerage world. So Stash is a broker with Capstone, been a broker for a long time, based in Cincinnati, Ohio. You guys do a lot of work in Ohio and some I know in Kentucky and maybe Indiana and other states as well. And your group is kind of actually spreading all around. I go to your website and I see you guys are starting to cover a lot of different areas too. So growing brokerage, which is exciting, obviously, to be a part of. But he's also, and we're going to be talking mostly about this, is he's also the founder and partner of nëdl. And what that is an AI machine-based machine learning platform that is for commercial real estate. So very, just a perfect topic for our audience to see kind of what's coming. And I wanted you on, you reached out to say, hey, what do you think? And I'm like, yeah, this is super cool because, if this works, it's awesome. Like, it's super awesome what you guys can do. And it's a really exciting what I think buyers can do, what brokers can do, like how it can all collaborate together and really streamline this kind of buying process that I would say is very unstreamlined in commercial real estate, if that's the right way to say it. But yeah, man. So with that said, give our listeners just a bit. A lot of people probably didn't hear that episode, so just give a bit about your background, then we'll kind of dive into nëdl and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much for having me again and back. It's good to see you. It's been too long.
Yeah.
But I'm a broker. I'm the managing director of Capstone Cincinnati office. Started my career in 2008 and moved here to Cincinnati in 2011. Took me a couple of years to get traction, and then I built a team, and we've been exclusively focused on multifamily investment properties. And then have branched out a little bit into development sites as well. But so that's kind of my background.
I want to stop you there because you said something, and I just want to kind of figure out what you did. You said it took you a couple years to gain traction. What do you feel like was either the hurdle that allowed you, or that stopped you from gaining traction quicker, and what did it take? What's the key ingredient or ingredients that it took to actually gain that traction?
Well, so I got here to Cincinnati in 2011, and I didn't start popping transactions until 2019. Like my first year, I think I gross commission income of like 2,000. My second year, I think I did 40. And then my third, I think I did like 250. So it was
big difference.
But it takes for any new to business, and this is actually a great time as well. For any new to business broker, it takes a while to just figure it out. Just figure out what's going on. Unless you were born in it or raised in it or had some other exposure to the industry prior to putting on your brokerage hat. It just takes a while to figure out, because things are moving so fast, and it's like, where do I focus? What do I do? And so, it's just
And those
letting
were also down years too. It's not like that was like the run up of the last, 7-8 years. Those were some down years in
yeah,
commercial.
the market was still recovering. I mean, I remember I couldn't sell deals at 10,000 a unit. It's like, in retrospect, I wish I would have bought it,
Yeah.
but hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah. As we all do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it took, and then the other thing that helped me is I subscribed to a coaching program because the firm I was at didn't have really any structured leadership around sales and brokerage development, and they helped me get some just things into place around presence, and then basic activity metrics that I still try and adhere to today. The biggest one is shoot to have 10 conversations a day. Like if you can have 10 conversations, solid conversations, unique conversations, still making and prospecting, you're going to be all right. It's when you get away from that and get buried in spreadsheets or whatever, whatever or LinkedIn or I don't know. When you're not out there, brokerage is a contact. So STP, see the property, see the people. If you're doing that, you're going to be all right. So it took 2 years for me to figure it out, for the market to figure out who I was and what I was doing, and then to gain trust and traction. So
yeah, it's just, I mean, a fairly simple thing is just patience and consistency.
Yeah.
So Stash, tell me, let's get a little more into the meat of Needle and what the company does and really what it's really why do you feel like this was something necessary?
Yeah. So, in building my brokerage practice, I found on a number of occasions, and it was a huge frustration of mine that, I'd be doing my calls, my prospecting, and I would have a conversation with somebody and they'll be no, we're not doing anything right now. And then all of a sudden I'd see a transaction pop off, either a closing come through as a comp or a listing pop up with a competitor. And it's like, son of a gun, I just talked to that guy. Like, what am I missing, basically? And so, seeing that there's a lot of data out there and, the CRM I was using previously, you could look backwards and you could maybe create a hot list of buyers based on manually entered criteria, but there wasn't any way to really figure out, aside from just making, 150 calls a day and talking to everybody that you can, there wasn't really a way to figure out what was going to be coming available for sale. So, really what we're trying to do is identify the hypothesis, or my initial goal was, what if you could tell a property was going to be for sale even before the owner knew? Like that was the initial thought. So that's what we're trying to do.
So what do you like, how do you predict what the owner right is wanting to do? So I'm on your website and I go to, and it's exactly, it says, what if you could use data analytics AI to predict which properties are going to transact before the transaction occurs? And it's like, heck yeah, of course I want to do that, man.
Exactly. So, as a broker out of my office, we probably underwrite a couple hundred deals a year, maybe 1,000. And time and again, there are patterns in the data. And so, I took some time and educated my team of data scientists and said, here's what we're seeing. Usually a property owner will, assuming it's an existing asset, property owner will buy a deal, probably drop occupancy a little bit, start to raise rents, and then occupancy will come back up again. And then, they'll have put some capital into it, curing deferred maintenance, upgrading the units, and then they'll want to go and harvest the profit by marketing it for sale.
Yep.
So it was things like that we're keying on. So rental rates, occupancies, how the how a property is doing versus its competitor set. Loan maturities are, certainly a driving factor of transactions, either refis or sales. And then ownership behavior patterns, like, if you're a group that just buys and holds for 10 years or the life of the life of the loan, well, then you're going to be probably a lower transactor unless you're doing lots of deals. Whereas if you're somebody who, comes in, uses a bridge loan, holds it for 2 to 3 years and then flips it out, you're probably going to be what we would think of as a higher transactor. And so we're using these and other benchmarks to score properties. And so we've got every single multifamily property in the country, 50 units and greater, within the platform. And we've scored all of them. Not all of them will show up as a hot, warm, or cold lead, but I've had the occasion where a property that we're working on didn't get flagged by the system, but we can then add it into the pipeline. So, and the goal is to make, the transaction experience that much more efficient for buyer, seller, and intermediaries.
How are you doing that? How are you making it more efficient?
So, from the brokerage side, it's where do you best spend your time? Because you can pull a list out of, any of the competitor data providers. But where do you start? And especially if you're brand new and you don't have any guidance, like, where do you start? How do you figure it out? And we've created a solution that shows you, hey, here are properties that we think are going to transact. And what we've done actually is we've back tested the formulas, the algorithms. And so, we're showing in 2021, I think our accuracy was 41%. So we are identifying about 41% of the transactions, or 44, excuse me, I think. And then in 22, we were about 47% accurate. So it's like, there's going to be some transactions, and it's better than just pulling the whole market and blindly cold calling through it.
Yeah.
Start with these and then see where that takes you.
Yeah.
And then secondarily, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Will it get smarter and more accurate? Is that something that it's capable of doing?
It's true machine learning within it. So, it's like a garden. The more you work inside of it, the better it gets.
Yeah.
Because it will pick up on, okay, like, maybe I didn't see this coming. I'm putting words to an algorithm, but
right.
We didn't see this coming, but okay, I see that. So let's figure out what were the deciding factors in this, and then how can we compensate for that?
So it's going to start to pick up different tendencies and maybe markets. Could it even differentiate from different markets, for instance, like Cincinnati versus Dallas, Texas? Like, is it capable of doing that?
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati's kind of a sleepy market from a transaction standpoint. But yeah, I think that the basics of it ring true. And, I think that if we're able to identify the patterns in one market, we can pick them up in others and then apply learning.
Yep. That's cool. So that's the seller side. Are you able to identify potential buyers then?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was one of the things that my partner Maher insisted on having was, let's make this as efficient as we can. Now, it's not to say that we're going to capture every single potential buyer out there, because some buyers aren't looking at, like, a REIT, for instance, is going to be looking at, cash flowing, probably newer, stabilized assets, core assets. Whereas somebody who's in the value add space is going to want something that's maybe a little older that they can push the value on.
Yep.
So we're not going to put a core buyer necessarily in on a value add recommended buyer list, but we do have the ability to pull a buyer list based on their existing portfolio attributes, location, age, size, things like that. We're looking for patterns. And okay, is this something that you might be interested in? We're in the beta testing phase right now, or pilot program. And I've seen a couple of times it's identified the current owner as a prospective buyer, and it's like, you're close. But not quite.
No. They are the perfect buyer, right? But just not on this one. Just
right. They were
already own it
years ago.
Yeah. I think that's really cool because I mean, we always say, hey, it's our fault we didn't do a good enough job with talking with the broker when a property does go to market, and we don't. I shouldn't say even go to market, when the property is presented to prospective buyers and it's this off-market deal and we don't get a sniff at it, or it's already kind of too late when we get a sniff. We're like, I wish they would have shown this to us, but it's at the same time we go, well, that's really our fault, right? We didn't get in front of them enough. But if you've got this tool already as a broker, I think part of it is, okay, maybe it's on us, but it's also sometimes on the broker, because you guys talk with a ton of people, and sometimes it's just the person that's top of mind, right? The person that you talked to last week, and they're like, hey, Stash, we really want something bad. This is what we're looking for. And then you go and look at this property. You're like, oh, it's exactly what this guy was looking for 2 weeks ago when I talked to him. And that's who you talk to. But you would have potentially actually even talked to me had this AI system been available, and you would have
had a better tool at your disposal that says, hey, don't forget about this. Because I mean, humans are flawed.
Right. What all it's trying to do in that case is just take away some of the human error element, right? And it's just what it is, right? You can't keep every single person's buy box in mind at all times. Like, you just don't have that capability. At least I don't. Like, there's no way. I can't even remember what I ate for lunch yesterday. So.
Well, and even a lot of the existing CRM systems out there are flawed, and buyer criteria change too.
True.
So, we're trying to solve for that.
Yeah. And I think it's cool. So that's really neat. I mean, if I buy a property in 2018 and I'm a value add person, right? And I've raised rents on 90% of the units. And I've got maybe floating rate debt that's going to be coming due. I mean, there's so many different things that it can pull, but I'm ready to sell, right? At a certain point in time.
That would be a hot lead. Yeah.
That'd be obviously a very hot lead. You know exactly what I'm looking to do, and you're going, hey, these guys are going to sell. And so the tool could say, boom.
Well, and even more so, like, the classic broker trick, you might say, is, oh, hey, I have a buyer for your property. But what this does is it says, no, I legit have a list of like 10 buyers, 10, 20, however many, depending on how deep the market is, that I think that this would be a great fit for. Let's talk, essentially. So that's what we're trying to do.
That's cool. What else? Any other capabilities or things that you're excited about, like about nëdl and what it can do that we haven't hit on?
At the moment we're in the pilot, and we've got, it's called an MVP. So we've got the basic functionality of it. We have a nice platform up and running. You can see, I'll give you a tour of it later if you like. But you can see usage, you can see all the properties, you can see recommended buyers, you can see any property that we have in the system, and then who within your firm is using it. So like at Capstone, I want to say we've got 20 or 25 brokers within it, or at least who have usernames, and they're actively kind of plowing through it. So, but the future capabilities are, we'd like to be able to tailor more towards the ownership side, And so, Todd, if you've got a portfolio, we'd like to be able to have you have a dashboard where you log in, you see your assets and where we're ranking them, and probably a price range on that. It's probably going to be a wide one. But then, you could click a button and say, yeah, I'm either interested in a sale or a refi at these values. And that ideally is going to trigger a notification to the users within the platform who facilitate those services, either sales or refinances or insurance, for instance. We have an insurance broker inside the platform.
So I was going to ask you, so it sounds like the answer, you already answered my questions, because I was like, this sounds like it would be really good for mortgage brokers as well, because you've got people that want to sell every 3 to 5 years, but you also got people that do the value add. They just want to refi and potentially cash out and hold that property too. So
right. Yeah. Well, and so, yes. And there are different levels where the lead, so to speak, is more valuable to different parties. Like for the mortgage or for the insurance brokers, they don't really care until it's under agreement. And then they want to talk to that buyer that has it under agreement.
Yeah.
Right. But the mortgage brokers are going to want to know that it's available when it is available off market or available on market, so that they can then get in line and say, hey, here's our debt quote. And they want to see the prospective buyers. Ideally it's going to allow owners to call up services at, a couple of clicks. And then on the other side of it, we've got your portfolio, how it ranks, and then maybe some suggestions on what you could do to help improve the value of the assets. But then on the other side, it's like, well, here's a hot list that we think might be good acquisition targets for you in this range. And you can toggle whether or not you're interested or not in that property at that range. And again, that's going to create a flag, an alert, so that, somebody working that given market is going to have, it's going to show you kind of like Facebook or Instagram or X or Twitter verified. Like, this is a verified lead. Like, they've actually said they want to buy this property in this range. So, and then the owner will get that. And then it's like, okay, well, all parties are talking at this point.
Yep.
Let's go and make some deals happen.
Yep. No, I love that. As a buyer, there are some buyers and there's some sellers that don't want to work with real estate brokers. Is this a tool that they could use if they say, hey, we just don't want to work with real estate brokers? Or is that what it's for?
Yeah. So when we were doing our initial,
I mean, I know that makes you sad, but as a broker,
it doesn't make me sad.
It hurts your heart.
But as a potential, yeah, it does. But and those people annoy me. But it is what it is. I get it.
Right.
But yeah, when we were putting it together, our target audiences were brokers, acquisition people, asset managers, because they're going to want to know, why am I getting blown up about this particular deal? Mm-hmm. And then loan brokers. And then asset managers, I would put them in that ownership group. So you really have 4 or 5 use cases. And then all the other service providers, I was doing some brainstorming on that yesterday, like who else could potentially use this. So we're in our like I said, our pilot program phase right now. We'll be raising capital Q1. We want to have that wrapped up by the end of Q1.
When you say you're raising capital, what are you raising capital for? Like, what's that capital use sources and uses?
Yeah, so we want to continue to build out these capabilities that I've just talked about here and further improve the platform. Hire some more people, build some marketing efforts around it, and really get this thing moving forward. I mean,
where do you envision nëdl being in, a couple of years, 5 years, wherever it is? What do you envision it?
I'd like it to become a tool that if you're going to be in investment sales, or if you're going to be in the business of buying and selling commercial real estate of any type, you are going to have this. Because if you don't, your competitors do. And unless that buyer or seller is your dad, you're going to be left out in the cold. so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Um,
So you envision this as potentially being it's like, hey, this is the main tool that you're going to utilize.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to enable some features that makes it really sticky so that once you log in and then you haven't been back in a week or a couple of days, even, it's going to start emailing you like, hey, you have all these things that you need to follow up on. Here's a new set of leads for you. Come back, and it keeps you engaged. I want it to be the first thing that you log into in the morning, and then the last thing you close out of. Like, I'm using it on a daily basis to just track my own pipeline, like what I'm working on, what I have available off market, what's under contract, what's under agreement, what's closed, things like that. So just evolving all of those things. Like, there's so much runway here. And, commercial real estate has been historically slow to adopt technology.
Super slow.
Yeah. And it's ripe for disruption. And I want to disrupt that market.
Yeah. You look at the investment sales, and it's still kind of that old boys club type.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think disrupting, it's definitely, like you said, it's ripe for disruption. It needs to be disrupted. So I think what you're doing is really cool. I'm excited to see kind of where this evolves and where it goes. And I think having a tool like this at your disposal as a sales broker, mortgage broker, like, it also seems to me like if you're utilizing it properly, it's an accountability feature too, to say, look, you've got these leads. You need to call on them, especially if it's emailing you and saying, hey, dummy, like,
right,
all these people.
You don't have an excuse anymore. I don't know what to do. No, we're telling you, go call these people.
Go call these people. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I always ask a couple of the same questions to all my listeners. And I know I asked this to you in the past, but before I do that, I just want to open it up for you to say any last thoughts that you have on nëdl, anything that you want my audience to know. And of course, how do you get there?
Yeah. So our website is nedl.us, needle.us. Think of it like trying to find a needle in a haystack. My email, as it pertains to nëdl, is stash, STASH, at needle.us, nedl.us. We are not open for selling licenses now, but we anticipate being able to offer those in January. Turn of the year is when we're anticipating going live.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that because I guess I'm not huge into the tech world, but I see things that are offered and it's like, this thing has so many bugs in it. Why are you sure?
Yeah.
Like, why did you offer it so early? So it's good that you guys are taking your time. Okay. So I asked you this before, but I want to ask you again because things change. So, 2 questions I always ask everybody. What's a favorite book that you can recommend to our listeners?
Oh, I just read a great book I listened to it on Audible, but it was about Sam Bankman-Fried. It's called Going Infinite by Michael Lewis. I listened to it this past weekend. I downloaded it Friday and finished it Sunday. It was 8 hours of listening.
Love it.
It was awesome. It was just fascinating. Like, what? Are you kidding me? So that was
I'm gonna have to add it to my list. I have not read that or heard that one, so I appreciate that. Last question: what are your 3 pillars of wealth creation?
Deciding what your mission is, focusing on it, and executing. I guess. I mean, if those are 3.
Yeah, those are powerful, right? Just decide, focus, and execute. For sure. Stash, look, man, really appreciate your time. Excited to see where nëdl goes. And listeners, check it out. Check out nedl.us, NEDL. .us. The website's there. I've been on it. I've checked it out. It looks really looks like this is a tool that I'm just super pumped to see how it evolves, right? How it Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to have. It's exciting to be there and just to watch it evolve and get better. That's going to be really neat to see how it really smooths out that whole kind of transaction process and really just the unknowns of like, who are the sellers? Who are the buyers? Like, I want to be able to go to a broker and say, this is what I'm looking for. And they go, I've got 7 of those for you. Here they are.
Here's what I have.
Yeah. So love it, man. Really appreciate it. So you already gave how our listeners can get in touch with you. Are you on social? You guys are on social or anywhere else?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. Needle's on LinkedIn, Instagram. I think it's on Facebook as well. I'm on Facebook as well. Stasiu Geleszinski, Geleszinski.
We'll throw that in the show notes so people don't have to write that down correct.
But reach out. I'd love to have a conversation. Thank you so much for having me, Todd. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Take care. Have a good rest of the day. Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.